So my name is JD. This past semester, I've had the opportunity to be a coach and mentor at the Woods Hub Accelerator program. And so I've just, really enjoyed this experience. And Jesse's going to kind of go into detail at the end on the Hub and some opportunities coming up next semester. So a little about myself. I studied industrial design at Carleton. And after graduating, went into the office furniture industry, started designing more mechanical solutions that would then often be sold to different manufacturers in the contract furniture space. Off to the side here is a product from a company called Inkscape, and I was a part of designing that internal mechanism that allows that table to kind of go up and down. So you can kind of get a sense of where I'm coming from, my background. So from industrial design, I kind of transitioned into product management and then into more of an entrepreneurial role at this office furniture company where I was looking at our core competencies and trying to figure out how these could be applied to new verticals and generate new business opportunities. From there, had another product management job at a local company in Cambridge called Dimplex. And now I've landed at a great company here in Guelph called Fill It Forward. It's a reusable drinkware company, and I lead our product development. And then there's also an app that kind of is connected, integrated into these reusable products. And over the last few months, I've actually been transitioning into a digital product development role as well, where I now oversee app development. So I love my work at Fill It Forward. Over the last few years, I also had the opportunity to start with a few friends, a wood toy company. You can see an image of one of our products to the right there. And this was just my first kind of venture on my own with some friends creating a new business. These books, I just wanted to quickly give a shout out here. These aren't specifically entrepreneurial books, but they kind of informed my journey over the last 8 years as I've transitioned from maybe a more traditional role kind of into the entrepreneurial space. And they all kind of hit me at different times and informed my thinking. And so I just thought I'd share. The Lean Startup is really about entrepreneurial methodology. Eric Ries unpacks the power of minimum viable products, and he takes amazing learnings from Toyota and integrates it into startup methodology. So highly recommend. I think it'll get you pretty excited. Start with Why. Probably many of you have read this, but it's a great tool for entrepreneurial leadership where we can inspire others on our team at a deeper level. And then the Challenger Sale. I've never been officially in a sales role, but this was an amazing book talking about complex sales, the challenges behind articulating problems that people aren't even aware that they have, and then explaining how you could be the solution to that problem. It also does a really good job of unpacking some sale personas and maybe some misconceptions there around sales. So these are a few books that have informed my journey, and I just thought I'd share. So I'd love to get to know you a little bit. I know it's sometimes challenging to chime in on a platform like this. So maybe I'll just try to make some assumptions, and maybe if you kind of use your emojis and I see some hands raising, I'll know that I'm kind of on track here. So why are you here? Maybe some of you, you kind of sense that there might be something entrepreneurial inside. Maybe some friends have mentioned, hey, you kind of seem like you've got what it takes to do your own thing. Not sure if that resonates with anyone here kind of on a personal journey, wondering if they themselves are entrepreneurs. Awesome. Some others, maybe you just identified a gap or an opportunity in the market, and you've kind of realized no one's really providing a solution that you feel is appropriate for the opportunity that you've seen. And you're just wondering why. Like, how does this all work? Who comes up with ideas? Who brings things to market? And you just have questions. Others of you, maybe you're students, maybe you're in a specific field, maybe you're in the sciences or you're in engineering, and you think that you have an idea or a concept that would actually be a great product or service that you could bring to market. And you're just wondering, how do I flush this out a bit more and kind of see where I can go next? And lastly, I know this was definitely my story. You're going to work every day, you're currently employed, and you always think to yourself, oh, if this were my company, I would do, I would buy different coffee, who knows what you're always thinking of during the day. So maybe some of you are just a bit restless in your current jobs and wondering if you could do this by yourself. So with that, let's kind of tackle this first idea of you're on a journey trying to figure out if you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So let's just get into a basic definition that I've kind of crafted, a lot of available content online that you can look at. But an entrepreneur has a desire to problem solve. And with that desire, they're then able to understand complex situations. And this is the framing. So they're providing definition to the problem that they see. And then next, they're able to rightly prioritize tasks to deliver an effective solution that's going to bring value to a market segment. So that's the execution. So you're problem solver, you can bring definition to the problem, and then you're able to follow up with execution. That's an entrepreneur. What's great is that the process in which we define problems and also how do we prioritize tasks in order to execute effectively. This isn't just kind of a mystery, some undefined thing. This has all kind of been worked out into basically entrepreneurial methodology. So the business model canvas is really this map that's going to bring us definition in understanding our problems. And then within the business model canvas, there's associated working tools that will guide execution. So the good news is, whether this comes naturally to you or you just have a desire to engage in these activities, but you're going to need to learn those methodologies and then those tasks to execute, entrepreneurship is very accessible for all. Maybe in the past, you've heard of examples of, okay, entrepreneurs, they're risk takers and they're, always these crazy 10-year out kind of visionary people. Those characteristics are maybe just describing more of an intuitive entrepreneur, someone who just kind of naturally has these skill sets and is able to apply themselves very easily to entrepreneurship methodology. But again, it's kind of all been laid out for us, and these are skills that we can learn. So whether it's intuitive or not, this is a field that's very accessible for all. All right, today I want to go through three kind of phases as we kind of get into startup activity. The stages are idea validation. Once we have a good idea, we want to see if it's actually going to be a viable business idea. So we want to input that idea into a business model canvas. And then from there, we want to understand the tasks required to start executing on this viable business. So I'm hoping we can quickly head over to our chat. I could spend, an hour on each of these topics. But I'd love to know, just based on where you guys are at in your journey, can we have people type in 1, 2, or a 3? And that'll just give me a sense of where I can camp out on our session today and maybe kind of unpack more of the theories that we're going to discuss. So 2 and 3, 1 and 2. Maybe I'll let Jesse do all the work of kind of keeping tabs of that. And then Jesse, if you want to chime in just a second and maybe give me a pulse on where would be helpful to camp out for today. Lastly, All Circles. So All Circles was that wood toy company I mentioned. started a few years ago and actually have since exited as a founder. And now I just do freelance design work for them. What we'll do is as we go through all of these stages, I'll actually use All Circles as a case study. And I think it's going to help us kind of flush out these theories with a real world example. So we'll keep kind of flipping back and forth with that kind of case study experiment. Jesse, do you have a sense of kind of where we should spend most of the time based on feedback?
Yes, yeah, most of the answers were definitely on number 2, so the business model canvas, but 1 and 3 were actually not too far behind. So mostly 2, but definitely people are interested in all 3 areas.
Awesome. So that exercise was unhelpful, as we just discovered. So we'll spread the love around. No, this is great. Okay, so idea validation. First, with an idea, we need to solve a problem and we need to differentiate from existing solutions. And this is very intuitive to us. Even right now, you might have an idea and you'll go up to a friend and you'll say, hey, like, got this idea. Let me pitch it to you. And you'll say, aren't you tired of working a 5-day work week? So you right away intuitively, you're defining the problem. Aren't you tired of working this 5-day work week? I propose a new company called Quattro, where we only work 4 days a week. So, already without even knowing that an idea has to solve a problem and differentiate, it's already how we pitch our concepts. The curious part is that, solutions that solve a defined problem and are able to be differentiated, so they're novel solutions, we still see them failing in the market. So why is that? And the question then becomes, how do we actually get an idea that's worth pursuing? So to start, I'd like to just spend some time through an assessment tool called desirability, feasibility, and viability. This isn't an exercise that's supposed to take hours and hours long. It's more of a gut check to take your idea that you have, put it through this quick 5-10 minute exercise and get a pulse on where you're at and whether you kind of have a valid idea that's worth going to the next stage of going through the business model canvas. So let's unpack this a little bit. Desirability, as you might have guessed, talks about how desirable the idea is. And what this really measures is the work that's going to be required in selling the solution based on the natural appeal of the service or product that you're proposing to a target market. So if you've ever been scrolling through Instagram and all of a sudden this image comes up and you just you uncontrollable, like under your breath, like, I want that. That would be a great example of a product that has high desirability. So for your product, let's do a quick gut check. The widget is gonna fly off the shelf. The second people see it, they're gonna want to buy it. Okay, that's a great example of high desirability. Another example, it is going to be very challenging to communicate the value of this idea. You would rank it a 1. I listened to a startup story recently on the founder of Robinhood. He was initially creating a wallet for cryptocurrency, and then quickly transitioned to providing a platform in which people could actually buy crypto, because that ended up being a greater challenge that his customers were facing. But man, talk about early days, a product that had very low desirability, trying to sell crypto or trying to get investment for crypto, because people just didn't understand it. And so it could have been a great idea, but it just wasn't desirable because it wasn't easily understood. And so something like that would receive a score of 1 on desirability. So for All Circles, our case study, early days, I would have given this a 4. I would quickly go online. I'd see lots of wood toys and stuff available on Etsy. So I would say, okay, it seems to be an established segment with some demand. I might dive into some of the reviews online and see, okay, once people receive these products, it wasn't just an impulse buy. They actually enjoyed using them. That's a good check. And then it really aligned with cultural trends. So you might have a family discussion and people are saying, oh, I'm gonna, minimize my closet. I don't want so many things in my life. I want less, but I want higher quality things. Well, I could say high quality wood toys kind of aligns with that trend. So quick assessment. I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm going to give All Circles a score of 4 for desirability. Next assessment tool, feasibility. So do you have the capability to pull this off? This is typically used internally for an established organization. They would say, okay, within our internal competencies, how hard is this going to be to execute? What resources do we already have? And where will we need to maybe develop new competencies to pull this idea off? So for your idea that you're considering, the gut check is, okay, this is a 5 because everything that I can do, everything that I am aligns perfectly with what's required to execute. Or you might say, you know what, like I'm a social worker and I just have this great idea for an app so that, the people who I'm giving care to can connect with others in a similar situation. And you say, you know what, I don't know how to even start developing an app, but I just think there's an opportunity here. You would give that a much lower feasibility score, though it might still be a fantastic idea. So All Circles, I would give this a high feasibility. I'm a product designer, so I'm starting a company with product design. Sounds good. I've designed office furniture. I see a lot of parallels to designing these place structures. I've brought consumer products to market. I understand engineering testing, meeting safety criteria. A couple things I don't know. I don't own a wood shop, so that's not really a core competency in terms of actually doing the manufacturing. I haven't specifically designed with a CNC machine or with Baltic birch plywood. And this is a big one, actually. I've never sold direct to consumer. So I've always been in B2B design contexts. And so that would be new for me. So I would give this a feasibility of 4. Lastly, viability. Can this idea generate revenue? So there's lots of different revenue models a business can take. And typically, if there are more dependencies on what it will take to accomplish revenue, then that's going to translate to a lower viability score. So quick gut check. Okay, this idea, there's no startup costs. And the second I sell my first widget, I'm going to make 75% margin. That is a very viable concept. Or, it's a free app and might take a long time to build up users, but eventually one day I could, imagine a advertising revenue opportunity. That's going to be a lower score of potentially 1 for viability. So All Circles, I gave it a 3. There's enough competition that makes me think this business is a profitable space. Relatively low startup costs. And then, looking at competitive, so the competition, what they're selling units for, maybe they're selling this play tower for $300. I do a quick estimate and I think I could probably manufacture this for $150. All of a sudden that looks like pretty healthy margins. What was unclear for me at the time was in direct to consumer, how much do I need to spend for generating that first sale through customer acquisition? So what's ad spend going to be like, and will that erode my entire profit margin? And so I'm a little bit fearful of that. So I'm going to give it a viability score of 3. A quick disclaimer here. A 1 or a 5 does not predict the success of a venture. It's only going to provide, again, this gut check, it provides an indication of the work that's ahead. So here's an example. You have an idea that has a desirability score of 1. So it means that it's going to take a lot of work to convince people that they even need the product and service that you're going to provide. But it doesn't mean that the product or service is illegitimate. So it just might mean that no one else is in this space, and all of a sudden you have kind of this blue ocean, opportunity where no one's competing. You can be the first to market, and you absolutely dominate and have a very successful venture. So a score of 1 does not mean it's going to be a failure. Vice versa, score of 5 doesn't mean that everything is going to be roses. Any quick questions there on kind of using that assessment tool for your ideas? Are we feeling good about that? No problem if no immediate feedback. Awesome, we'll move on. So let's jump into the business model canvas. Awesome, thanks, Jessica. Let's jump into the business model canvas. I'm pulling information from Strategizer, but many people have kind of their own frameworks for the business model canvas. Sometimes slightly different terminology, and also sometimes you'll see value prop is number 1, customer segment is number 2. That's not too important. So what I'll do is I'll go through each component of a business model canvas. And what we're saying here is, hey, I feel good about this idea. Let's do a bit more work and see if we could build the components necessary for a viable business. So I thought what we could do is, as I kind of talk through this, we can populate it for this idea of, All Circles, this new toy company, and we can start understanding kind of what I mean by each category. So let's start with customer segment. So who are our most important customers? Again, all of this stuff, like these are just our best guesses at the moment, and it's going to be an incredible journey to then go in and validate all of these assumptions, but let's just use our best guesses. So customer segment, I'm going to say number 1, let's get the persona of an LA yoga mom. She's going to have the money to actually buy a $700 play structure. And I think she might also be a good persona because I think she's living in a smaller apartment building right downtown. And so she cares about space. And so if I can come up with some sort of modular solution, I think this LA yoga mom's going to love it. Another customer segment I might want to consider is grandma. Grandma, she can't say no to her grandkids. I could see her, spending a lot of money on one of these items. Maybe she'll even consider buying 1 unit for a bunch of grandkids and justify a nice, generous Christmas gift or something like that. So there you have it. 2 customer segments that for now I'm going to maybe focus on as I build out my business model canvas. Okay, next, value proposition. So what we're saying is, based on that customer segment, what problem do they have that we're going to solve? And how are we going to solve it in maybe a unique way that others are not? So I'm going to start off with, okay, we're going to make quality wood toys. But as you know, there's others in that space. So I might say, I want it to be modular and I want it to be easy cleanup. Some other things just kind of on the top of my head. I want this stuff to look really beautiful. I've realized just a trend that people really care about the way their homes look. Everyone's Instagramming everything. So I just want this stuff to look stunning. And the ultimate reason is that I just want it to complement people's space. We actually started this company before COVID hit, but something that then came up was that people were stuck in their homes. So let's say fun action-based activity inside. There we go. You get the idea now of what value proposition kind of entails. So next, let's consider channels. channels, how are we going to deliver this value to these new defined customer segments? So LA Yoga Mom, okay, that's helpful. We know she lives in LA. How are we going to get in front of her? How are we going to introduce our brand to her? How are we going to convince her that she needs our products? One idea might be, there's a handful of baby kind of like boutique shops in Hollywood, and the prices are just absolutely crazy. They're all marked up, but these shops are busy, and that's where we need to be. If we want the LA Yoga Mom, we need to be in person, brick and mortar, selling at one of these baby boutiques, maybe. We might also just say, you know what, I think we can kind of use Instagram as our main way of connecting. We'll have a connection to our Shopify page, and let's just allow people to find us on Instagram and then right away just purchase kind of the stuff that they see there. Any other ideas for channels? There might be an opportunity for like some sort of wholesale, wholesale play in the future. Maybe someone reaches out to us and we can figure out a way to bump up our volume and sell to some sort of distributor. But keeping our options open. So let's just make note of it, and we'll see where that all lands. Customer relationships. So how will we intercept, keep, and then grow this relationship? So here's a few ideas. We might start doing some ad spend on social. We might have certain commitments like, nothing that we do is low quality. So we're going to really preserve the brand quality. And we think over time, that's just going to build this reputable brand machine that people are going to trust and continue to come back to. From that, we think there's going to be a real nice, natural kind of word of mouth growth. So those could be some ideas for customer relationships. Another thing I hope you're picking up as we kind of go through this exercise is, this isn't exhaustive. It's just kind of your best guess. You're just getting through the work. Maybe if you spend an hour or 2 hours applying yourself to a business model canvas as you kind of initially work through an idea, I think it's going to be time well spent and will really kind of bring some light to the opportunity at hand. It's already 6:03. I'll start maybe moving a little bit closer, a little bit faster. Revenue streams, how are we going to make money? So I'm going to start by just saying, I'm looking at our sell prices. I've quickly run a pro forma, like a profitability analysis based on cost estimates. I think we'll be able to do 35% margins. But again, there's maybe that wholesale option. So maybe there's a play where we're doing higher volume at only maybe 20%. So that's maybe kind of where we'll leave revenue stream for now. It looks like there's some healthy margins based on just product revenue. Key partners. So who are key partners? Who are our key suppliers? And what do those transactions look like? What's involved? So right away, I already mentioned, we need to find a wood shop. We want to kind of own manufacturing. So we need some sort of partnership or wood shop setup. Or maybe we need to build our own wood shop, maybe find some space and start purchasing tools. Another thing we realize is even if we have our own wood shop, we don't want to get into clear coating. Like we know that our products need to have some sort of clear coat so that things don't get stained with greasy fingers and people don't get slivers. So, it needs to be protected. So we're going to need to find a partner who can do some clear coating for us for these wood products. And obviously that's not very extensive, but probably lots, I'll just say wood supplier, because we need to buy plywood from someone. Would be great to get wholesale pricing on that. So maybe we need to buy in bulk, which is probably no problem. Just make a note of that. Next, key activities. This is kind of like, let's say you were to have departments in an organization. What's everyone getting up to? So for a startup like All Circles, we might say, right away, okay, we kind of need this like engineering arm where they're just going to, like, a few of us need to be focused on new product development. We need to test these products. And then we need to just keep pumping out new products. So that's going to be a very key activity for us as a company. What else do we have here? We might say, we want to lean in on Instagram. We want to have a killer presence from day one. So let's hire someone to manage our social feed and create high quality content. That would be then all of a sudden a key activity for your startup. Another key activity, this was an idea where we just said, how could we bring people into our kind of development process? And so early days, we launched a prototype team. We gave early design concepts to families who were excited to test out our products and give us feedback. And this actually became a really nice marketing tactic for us as well. We ended up pulling together a very large email list of very excited families who wanted our prototypes and wanted to provide feedback. So we started building a community around this prototype team. And then one of our key activities, hey, we want to own manufacturing. So we know that these products have some detail to it that we want to ensure the quality is top notch. We don't just want to outsource the manufacturing. We also don't have the volume early days to justify outsourcing. So we need to set up our manufacturing arm. So those are key activities. Key resources. What key resources do we require? Got some already in the queue here. So right away, we knew we needed to start buying lots of material. We needed to start signing up for different accounts. And so we just started tracking all of our purchases, and we kind of knew in the back end, we had an Excel doc going that we were going to keep record of all this, keep all our receipts, but that at the end of the year, let's not worry about kind of having an accounting arm of the business early days. We knew we were going to get a bookkeeper involved to kind of have a quarterly check-in and then help us file taxes at the end of the year. This was completely new to us, so we kind of wanted this resource to be able to help us. We knew we needed a new CNC machine. The wood shop that we found had a little like prototyping CNC machine. So we wanted just something that could handle kind of a higher volume output. So we ended up purchasing a CNC with the founders. And then we knew that there was just a lot of startup costs. So we needed to buy a bunch of wood. We needed to buy packaging. We needed to buy a bunch of random tools to actually pack everything out, foam for protection, all that kind of stuff. So we knew there was some costs to get this thing going. Lastly, cost structure. So what are the most costs inherent to the business model, fixed or variable? And so here's just a list of some costs that we want to kind of keep top of mind as we begin this venture. So what's it going to cost to get this wood shop going? We really needed to keep our eye on local labor rates. This ended up being really challenging for us. It's hard to make products, and it's hard to make products quickly, and it's hard to make products locally. And so that's basically because labor rates are expensive and products take time to make. So we just wanted to keep this front of mind, kind of monitoring the labor input into each product. Kind of thinking future, we kind of always knew that we'd be able to drive down our cost of good once we reach higher volume. And so one of our questions was, early days, are we going to be able to float and kind of carry the burden of producing such low volume and not really having economies of scale to have an efficient manufacturing process and therefore competitive pricing? It wasn't going to be there early days. And then, as I mentioned before, when we talked about partners, finishing, which turned out to be very, very expensive to get quality finishing on our wood toy products. So there you have it. That is the business model canvas. As you can see, I have highlighted customer segment and value proposition with a different color. That is because within the business model canvas, there's kind of a module called the value proposition canvas. And this is an amazing exercise where you hone in on your customer segment and your value proposition to determine if your solution has fit. So what I mean by that is the solution that you're proposing is actually addressing your customers' jobs that they want to accomplish. It addresses the gains that they hope would be present in a product that they would purchase, and it allows them to, or it alleviates the pains that they've experienced, maybe from past competitor products or from just not having the product or service in their life. So I don't think we have enough time for me to really dive into this with much detail. Why don't I go through the next stage of some startup tasks and some tasks for after startup. And then if we have time at the end, maybe I can jump into that value proposition canvas. But I would just say that is one of the most fruitful exercises you can do. And it's all available online. You'll see it on Strategizer. And I would just encourage you to spend a few hours on that value proposition canvas to get a better understanding of who your customer is, the pains and the gains that they're hoping for, and how you as a company can strategically align with those customers. And again, there might not be that alignment, and that just means either you need to find maybe a new customer segment to service, or it means you can make some adjustments to your product offering to better accommodate the needs of that predetermined customer segment. So there you have it, business model canvas. So we've just done the exercise and we think, you know what, all circles, not a bad idea. It sounds like it has all of the components of a viable business. But like that was total guesswork. I mean, we were just like throwing stuff at the wall. So what happens next? I was just reading a sci-fi book by Dave Weir, and the main character in this book was like obsessed with the scientific method. And so I think this is kind of why this is fresh in my head. But this main character, in a way more articulated way, talked about the hypothesis that you start with, and then this critical piece that science is sort of built upon, which is a commitment to almost stress test or like break the hypothesis. And I think that's a really nice way of thinking about startups. I think, you know, especially because ideas feel close to us and we have maybe these romantic ideas of, you know, starting our own company. We don't always try to like break our ideas, and instead we try to find ways that kind of bring confirmation to the direction we're going. But I think it's actually really wise to try to stress test our ideas and try to think of critical ways of maybe why this thing is going to fail. And I think that that's just a fruitful way to kind of think about it. So the question then becomes, what assumptions can I validate or disprove before I start engaging in all of these startup activities? So, I mean, there's so much to start getting into. from incorporating to getting into first production runs. What about getting business insurance? I've highlighted IP because intellectual property is often just kind of like an unknown space. We kind of know about it vaguely, but we don't know what it entails. And so I'll just kind of make a few notes on intellectual property just for the sake of people on the call, even though we won't really get into it in detail. Let's say you have an idea and you think, oh, okay, well, why can't I just like patent this idea? And then maybe I can sell it to someone and make a lot of money. And I don't even have to really get into the weeds of building a company. So IP is built on so intellectual property is, you basically file for a patent, but then it goes to a board, and the Canadian Intellectual Property Office is going to review your application, and then they're going to, and so that would be called patent pending, but they are going to determine if your idea is patent worthy. And they're looking at 3 criteria. So they're looking at whether your product idea is novel, inventive, or has utility. And it has to have all of these 3 things. So novel, as we know, it hasn't been done before. Inventive is a really interesting one. I had pushed back on a wheelchair design I had. I thought it was a really novel application where I put a cylinder, like an office chair cylinder, into the seat of a wheelchair seat that allowed for height adjustment of the wheelchair user so they could reach things a bit higher. And the patent office flagged it, saying it might not be inventive. And by that, they meant that within the industry that the solution is being provided to, it can't just be obvious to everyone that's in that space that that's how you would accomplish height adjustment in a wheelchair. So again, that's a gray area because they weren't necessarily saying that if you were to file this patent, JD, you are going to be rejected. They're just saying this idea might not score well on inventiveness, and it might translate into not receiving your patent. Another area is utility. So whether it's novel and inventive, it has to have a purpose within that industry. And so they just look at how the idea is actually going to be used. And if it's actually useful, then again, it can, they would say that it has utility. So those are just quick notes on intellectual property. Other kind of ideas here. A few $1,000s, a lawyer will charge you to do a prior art search. So before you go to file, you could say, hey, could you just kind of, here's my idea. Could you do some keyword searches, maybe find 6 patents that seem similar to the idea I'm referring to? Could you go through their abstracts and claims and see if anything is kind of out there that sounds like my idea? They'll do that for a few $1,000s. And then you could have a good sense of like, whoa, actually, I think my idea is novel. I think I want to go forward with incurring more fees to file this patent. And then what happens is your lawyer will give you a quote and you'll start working on an abstract and then claims, which are basically in order of like the contingencies of your solution that you're proposing. So claim 1 is what everything is built upon, and then all subsequent claims funnel into that initial claim. So that's just a little note on intellectual property if people are curious. But back to what we were talking about. So lots of startup activities. We don't have time to get into all of these. It's overwhelming. And so what I want to kind of do to close is consider what we can do to validate or disprove our assumptions before we even get into these startup activities. So first, market research. Amazing market research can be done for $0. You guys are all super competent, and I know if you start getting into the old, rabbit trail, you'll be able to uncover a lot of really useful stuff. in terms of who your customer is, what they're interested in, what competition is doing. You could start creating surveys, and you could start calling people, maybe industry experts, and conduct interviews to better understand the problem that you're trying to solve. So, kind of get creative and think of ways that you could better understand either your customer, the industry, or the solution that you want to provide without necessarily, incorporating, or without that initial first investment. I think that's going to be a really worthwhile thing to do. Another thing you can do, even, before, all of those startup tasks, is you could just kind of flush out the idea with a prototype. So for All Circles, I could say, one of my fears about this venture is that, like, okay, let's say we get this LA mom or this, amazing grandma to buy a $700 play structure. What if, like, it's not actually that fun to play on? What if, like, you buy it and then it just sits in your home and no one engages with it? So I wanted to know, what was the play value going to be? And are we on to something here in terms of like a modular play structure for indoors? So what did I do? I went over to Home Depot, grabbed some plywood. This is completely the wrong plywood you would use for production. This isn't Baltic birch. I went into my garage with a jigsaw. I used, like, the bottom of a Tim Hortons cup had a nice circle that I thought, okay, that could kind of work for my first concept. I traced that Tim Hortons cup at the bottom and created that little candy cane joint. I mean, showing this prototype is a little bit embarrassing because it's so ugly, but it allowed us just to start giving it to kids. These are my nephews playing here, and start getting feedback immediately. Whoa, like, we actually used it day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Kids are waking up and asking to jump on this unit. It started right away saying, okay, we might be onto something here, guys. This is good. This is helpful. IDEO is kind of the world leader in design thinking. They're the ones that pioneered a lot of the common terminology that we use now around, like, design empathy, user-centered design. All of that came from a lot of the founders at IDEO. And these guys are masters at prototyping. So in this image, you see that marker, pencil sharpener, and that little clip there. That was their first prototype as they started designing this new surgical tool. And up until this point, most surgical tools were cylindrical in nature. And one of the designers just quickly had an idea and said, hey, what if there was just this component that kind of fit in the palm of your hands, and it kind of, felt like this. And all of a sudden, in 2 minutes, he had this low fidelity prototype that was used to inspire his entire team on a new design direction that they could take. So how low can you go? How simple of a prototype execution can you come up with to kind of get a sense of whether this idea is going to be valid or not? And typically, if we want to, like, really test something in a more robust way, then the fidelity or the quality of our prototype is going to have to increase to handle that kind of engagement. But if we just want to inspire people, hey, tape that marker and that pencil sharpener together, and all of a sudden you can inspire an entire group within 2 minutes for $0. So pretty cool. An MVP, minimum viable product. This would be a little bit different than a prototype. Minimum viable product, the implication is that this is actually something that can be sold. So it's a sale. It's the least amount of value that you can provide to still make a sales transaction. And so this wasn't actually the case for All Circles, but if I were laying awake at night saying, you know what, I think this is not going to work because there's no way we can convince someone to give us $600 for a wood toy. Maybe a good thing to do before you even start up is go to your garage, make a prototype, get some sandpaper and do all the edges, spend lots of time on it, get some veneer from the hardware store, paint it yourself, have one quality product that probably costs you $1,500 in terms of time and material, and post it on Facebook Marketplace. See if you can make that one transaction for $600. And would that transaction give you the confidence you need to jump into this new venture? Another way you could use an MVP is, again, you're freaking out at night because you're wondering, what, if we launch this company, are people going to start, how are we going to face lawsuits? Are, little kids going to get their fingers pinched, or are they going to hit their head? What do we do around safety? And so really early days, before we really formalized as a team, I looked into all of the safety standards for toy manufacturing. I started running all of the payload tests just to get a better sense of, do we have what it takes to pull this thing off? So it's kind of getting ahead of some of these startup activities. So in summary, we've talked about idea validation, how to kind of get a bit more confidence in the idea that we've come up with. We've then gone to seeing, is this idea kind of actually have the components of a viable business by putting it through a business model canvas. And then lastly, kind of understanding that there's a bunch of startup tasks, but also what are things that we can do before really formalizing the journey to validate our assumptions. That is all I have. Thanks so much for your time. I will say, I just dropped my email here. If it's at all helpful, just, maybe you have an idea and you just want some feedback, always open just to, answering an email, or if you want to just jump on a quick call. I'd love to make myself available to you guys, and just really appreciate you guys coming out and kind of considering entrepreneurship and the opportunities ahead. So thanks for your time. I'll stop sharing and I'll send it over to Jesse.
Awesome. Thanks so much, JD. So for folks, we are going to transition just for the last kind of just under half an hour here, talking about now maybe you've learned what it means to be an entrepreneur and what it takes. So kind of what are the next steps and what are the resources that you can access. So I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint here. And also for folks, I will be sure to save some time at the end, a Q&A, chatting with myself, JD, or Teo. So we will save time at the end. So tonight, I really want to kind of share with you some highlights, not only within the Wood Center, but introduce you to our team, and also looking at how we fit within the entrepreneurial ecosystem, not only at the University of Guelph, but also in the city of Guelph. And then I'm definitely going to be able to dive into the Hub Incubator program, which is why I'm sure a lot of you are joining this meeting tonight to learn about this program, and also provide an overview of what you can expect if you are one of the selected applicants to go through the Hub Incubator program. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jessie Kennedy. I'm the program coordinator here at the Wood Center, and my colleague April Albano is the current acting program manager at the Wood Center. As Teo mentioned at the beginning, we are a non-academic unit within Lang, which is the School of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph. And when describing our center and kind of who we support, we really have four main buckets, I would say, or categories of programming. The first one being problem solving for innovation. So the main thing that falls under this bucket is our innovation toolkit, which is really a process for problem solving. So we bring this to different students across campus from any and really all academic background. And in this process and all these different modules and tools that we have, we really help folks learn how to solve problems like an entrepreneur and also think like an innovator. The second bucket that we have is entrepreneurial education, which I'd say we're most well known for. So I put that one at the end because we're going to spend the most time on that one, but that falls kind of within that. We have our Hub Incubator program and also the Sandbox program. So this is an opportunity for graduate students, and you can work with local companies who want to develop a social enterprise. Going back to the second box there is outreach and engagement. So this is really kind of beyond the University of Guelph campus, but also within the community. So some examples we are a front door for the circular economy work that we do with the Smart Cities office. We support student clubs such as the Guelph Entrepreneurship Society and Enactus. We're part of the Peer Helper program at the university, and we also partner with various different campus departments for events. And then our third bucket there is the makerspace. So this is a physical space that we have. Teo's actually there right now, and we help bring ideas to life through prototypes and also a variety of workshops. So when JD was talking about prototyping, we can definitely help you with that area because we have a lot of great equipment and resources that you can access. The Wood Center is really just one of many spots on campus that provides all those resources and information pertaining to entrepreneurship. Really fortunate that there are so many connections within the University of Guelph and also the city. And so I want to spend just a little bit of time highlighting those for you. It is going to be a lot of info, so please note that everything that I'm about to say, I will send in a follow-up email that'll go out later tonight. Specifically on campus, two main connections that we have. So Research Innovation Office. I know we have some folks joining from that department on this call tonight. They're known as RIO. And then also CARE-AI. So that is the Center for Advancing Responsible and Ethical Artificial Intelligence. So for RIO, for example, for both of our centers, it really is our mission to support the entrepreneurial spirit on campus. And the main difference I would say between the two is with the Wood Center, we primarily work with students and alumni who have a very early on business idea. And with RIO, they mostly work with faculty or folks that have research that they want to commercialize and really bring that research to market. They have an incredible accelerator program. And at the Wood Center, we have an incubator program. So again, we're really focused on that early startups. And with RIO, they help guide research affiliated teams and really help those ideas go to commercialization. Sometimes we have folks that will access both programs with RIO and the Wood Center. For CARE-AI, so this group really brings together researchers and students. They really focus on applying machine learning and artificial intelligence to really everything that the U of G excels in. So think agri-food business, agriculture, environmental science, human health, the bioeconomy, and we host a lot of different seminars with them. One in the fall was working with an entrepreneur. He launched his own business and it was all about taking medical documents and using artificial intelligence to process them. And we really saw how much AI and entrepreneurship can really work well together. So we hosted a great seminar series, and this is definitely a great resource if you're on campus to tap into. We also have two student groups. So there's Enactus and the Guelph Entrepreneurship Society. Enactus is an international not-for-profit organization, and they really bring together business leaders, students, and thinkers from around the world. And the organization itself, they host many student team competitions throughout the year. And what's great about this team is that the problems that they work on and really the innovative ideas is their real sustainable projects. And really their aim is to make it a better planet through action. Guelph Entrepreneurship Society. So this is a student association for students who really have that spirit. You don't have to be a business student to get involved. They help really foster that spirit. They have many different speaker events, case competitions, networking opportunities. Definitely a great organization to get involved in. I will pass along contact info for both of these incoming presidents with these groups, and I'll send that in the follow-up email. Moving on to resources within the city of Guelph, there are so many that I could have fit into the slide. So I'm just going to kind of skim over a few of them. And again, I'll include them in the follow-up email. And if you have any questions about them, I would be happy to make kind of the connection to my contact within that department. One that I'll start with is COIL. This is an opportunity that's really unique to this area because the Township of Guelph Wellington received major funding to become the first circular economy. And through this, they've launched many different programs. And the one that we're going to spend the most time on tonight is COIL. And within COIL, there are kind of different I'd say like programs that you can get involved in and different funding opportunities. A business passport gets you access to great programs, funding, and digital tools to really help showcase your business's commitment to sustainability through the Launchpad. really, if you think about kind of every product that we consume, it's most often made from virgin materials, used once, and then it's thrown away. So that's a linear economy, and it's really wasteful. It's very inefficient for businesses and unsustainable. So taking a circular approach, we're looking at reusing those materials, and we're creating innovative products and business models, and we're redesigning supply chains to be a lot more sustainable and resilient. So a lot of different programs. There's you see the Activate Circular Accelerator right there. There's the Repurpose Incubator. So many different great programs that you can get involved in. Another great resource is the Business Center Guelph Wellington. So it's a not-for-profit organization. They help entrepreneurs, business owners, students, different professionals for over 20 years within the community. They have a lot of great opportunities for our Hub alumni, and one that's coming up is our summer company. It's a great way to receive funding and mentorship. There are a few different requirements. So for example, you have to be in high school, college, or university. You have to live in Ontario. You have to be the sole proprietor of your business. So a few different requirements, but I would be happy to share more information with you. And what's great about summer program and summer company is you could also be in the Hub Incubator program at the same time as this one. And the last one here is our Innovation Center regionally, which is Innovation Guelph. So exceptional resources and programs. No matter what area you're from, there is most often a local innovation center. So if you think Communitech in Kitchener, Mars Discovery District in Toronto, a lot of great resources. And I would say for a lot of folks that go through our Hub program or get involved in Rio or any one of those kind of networking opportunities, they often say that they are so taken back by the amount of networking opportunities and the connections that you'll build within these programs, because there are so many different resources, and part of our job is to help you navigate the different resources, funding, and kind of programs that you can take advantage of, because as I'm sure you've seen just from these few slides, there's really a lot of great opportunities to take advantage if you are kind of looking down that entrepreneurship path. So let's dive specifically into the ones at the Wood Center. The Hub Incubator program is an opportunity for current U of G students or alumni to help really bring their business idea to life, is kind of our tagline. So we have different opportunities to receive funding in the Hub program. You get the mentorship, the coaching, and the cohort itself runs 3 times a year. So we have a fall, a winter, and we are having the applications are currently open for our summer intake program. I just want to make a note. I have received a few questions on if it will be in person or virtual, and unfortunately, I don't have an exact answer for you right now. We're still waiting on direction from the university. However, I can tell you that we are encouraging all applicants to apply. If we are able to host it in person, you never know, there might be like something else where we launch a virtual option, maybe in the fall as well. Maybe the 2 programs will coincide. We're not too sure what our plans are yet, but I wouldn't want to kind of have you miss out on an opportunity essentially. So I do encourage all applicants to apply, even if you think if we are in person, you wouldn't be able to attend, and then we'll give you an update when we have that available. So more information to come when we have an update, but we are encouraging all applications. Within the Hub Incubator program, we are really proud to celebrate our 100th Hub going through this program in 2020, but we are definitely now well above that with just over 150 companies and 230 entrepreneurs graduating from our program. What's really unique about this opportunity is any U of G student or alumni can apply. So we've had students from various educational backgrounds, and that often then coincides because the different types of companies that come out of our program are really unique and they vary. For example, right now we have 9 companies going through the Hub program, and they span across 6 industries, from health and bio, we have creative and cultural, we have a real estate company. The photo on your screen right now on the right-hand side, that was just some logos from our fall 2021 cohort. There was Soy Salve, so they actually went through a Project Soy competition that we partner with Rio for that, and they make organic cream. We have Kaylee's Crafts, they do pressed flower art. Spruce Lab is a landscape architecture and a planning consulting company. So really a variety of companies that can go through the Hub program. They don't all have to fall under the same industry, and I think it makes for a really exciting cohort. Who can apply to the Hub? So eligible teams must have at least one co-founder who is a current University of Guelph student or an alumnus. As I mentioned, what's great about the Hub is you don't have to be a business student. In the program, we are going to teach everyone the necessary skills that they need to become an entrepreneur. You do not need to be a student within Lang. You can be from engineering, you could be from arts and sciences, computing, any degree program. For co-op students as well, just want to make a note that you can use our Hub program as well. Once the pandemic hit in 2020, we actually partnered with the Co-op and Career Services Department for students that were unable to find a work placement due to the pandemic. So we created a placement for them in the Hub, and now we have 2 spots every semester for co-op students. So if you're in co-op, this is a great way to get involved in the Hub program, and it can count as one of your co-op work terms. The Hub program itself, so typically a normal cohort, you're going to meet once a week, typically on Wednesdays from 12 to 2, and we have a guest speaker for usually the first hour on a specific topic. I've displayed on screen now just a snapshot of the current cohort, so you can see actually tomorrow they have a session on using business as a force for good. We have a U of G prof that's coming to talk all about, creating a social enterprise, looking at sustainable business. We had one a few weeks ago that was all about the founder's journey. So looking at mental health for entrepreneurs. We have a session all about, making that perfect pitch. How do you pitch to an investor versus maybe your neighbor or versus a school teacher and a student? So you can really see that the variety of topics that we're teaching you, we really want to span everything that you would need to know as an early stage entrepreneur. And a common question that I get is, can you be a student or can you be working and still be a part of this program? And the answer is yes, you just need to be available from that 12 to 2. We find that many students are able to kind of move their classes so that they are available from that 12 to 2 slot on Wednesdays when we have our session. What's great about the Hub is we want to keep you accountable. So on screen, I've shared the 5 milestones that you have to kind of reach in the program to receive the stipend amount. One of the milestones, the one I've bolded there, is that you have to set a few specific short-term goals for your company, and you'll actually meet with our team throughout the semester to check in on your goals. We want to make sure that we're providing you with the resources to help you achieve them. So we'll meet with you at the beginning of the semester. Our team met last week. It was actually JD who is facilitating those meetings, and then again at the end of the semester. So really there's that constant support through the sessions each week, but then having those check-ins kind of with our Hub team to make sure that you're reaching those milestones and reaching those goals to be successful in the program. Some of you might not know this, but we actually provide you with funding to help your startup. So we have a Hub Start program and a Hub Build. So Hub Start, if it's your first time going through the program, you're very early on, and then you can actually apply for another cohort to be in the Build program. So we have a few companies, if you remember that postcard that I showed a few slides ago, Gerben and Kaylee's Crafts were on that. They went through the fall 2021 program and the Start, and now they're going through the Hub Build program. So if you go through both of those options, it's an opportunity to receive up to $4,000 of funding for your startup, which is really great. We've had some incredible companies go through our program. I think that's probably one of my favorite jobs about going through, favorite parts about this job is when I connect with the alumni and see the incredible success. We had Welo, so they are a kind of a company that sells prebiotic and probiotic granola bars and juices, and they're sold across Canada now in over 1,500 stores. Canadian Barbecue Boys was featured on Dragon's Den. Revel Cider is a very well-known company. Acid League, so you'll see the one kind of in the middle there. They were featured in a kitchen and cooking magazine as one of the top 40 products that you need for your home. The Making Box is an improv company that they were actually just hired to lead a lecture within Lang a few weeks ago, or I think last week. So it's really unique to see the types of companies that go through the program. Here on the left, we have a company called 3 Cats Cider, and on the right, we have Well Baked Box. And I put these 2 companies on screen because they also, in addition to receiving their funding with the Hub program, they actually received an award as well. So we do have some different awards and funding that we give out. There's one that goes to a company when we have a pitch competition and they receive best pitch. So that went to 3 Cats. And then we also have an impact award for a company that has and really demonstrates the best kind of sustainability business model. So there's really a kind of within that $4,000, there's also additional funding to help your startups. You will have access to a great group of mentors within the Hub program. I've displayed just a few of the mentors that we have. We have core mentors that will be in every session. And then we also have a mentor network. So sometimes we'll place you and match you one-on-one with a mentor. You can connect with them for up to 2 hours throughout the semester. We have such a range in different specialties. So on screen, Harrison there, he's amazing and investor in kind of his pitching skills. So he often will work with companies who are kind of that early stage in looking at investment opportunities. Steve has a great marketing background. John is a lawyer. Susan Fraston, president of the Wood Development Group. Shani has an incredible marketing background. So it's really great that we can tap into those different levels of expertise. And there's really a lot of great support that you can get with your company. And also an unexpected win that some people don't realize when you go through the hub is not only do you have the mentors and our staff to support you, but you also have the support of each other's companies. We did a live on Instagram today with one of our companies, Customs by Katie, who's going through the hub right now. And she mentioned that one of her favorite parts is actually connecting with the other companies and kind of, brainstorming with them because they are all early on those startups and they can really support each other as they go through this process. So it's probably very clear to all of you folks that there's really a lot of support when you're going through the hub program. In terms of how to apply, I'm going to move over my screen here. And the application form is done online. So when you head to our website, and I apologize, I have a few monitors, so I'm going to look at my other screen here for a moment. When you come to the Wood Center website, on the top row here, you'll see students. From the dropdown, you're going to select Hub Incubator Program. And there's just a bit of information about, so this is Jay from the Making Box, just a bit of information about why you should apply to the hub, what the application process is like. But you'll see right at the top there that applications for our summer intake are open. They are going to close on April 1st. So you have a few weeks, and we thought that this session worked up nicely, kind of timeline wise. If you had any questions, you could connect with us tonight and then kind of start maybe the process of applying. And of course, you can reach out kind of anytime throughout the next few weeks if you have questions. You can preview the applications in PDF as well. So this is going to open a OneDrive link. I do recommend kind of when you're about to make that submission and you're going to log in and kind of start the application process, I do recommend doing it in one take. So that's why we have the kind of answers kind of shown here. So maybe start a Word document, start kind of brainstorming your answers to these questions, and then you can fill it in one process. So we go back to the main page, you can, as I just showed you, you can preview the applications, you can send us an email, and when you click apply now, it's going to bring you to a Qualtrics form, and you essentially just fill out the answers. So you can't kind of stop and start. So that's why I suggest previewing the applications, write them in a Word doc, and then you can fill it out. It's very step-by-step, pretty user-friendly. But again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Once you submit the form, so applications, as I mentioned, will close April 1st. We are going to spend the next week reviewing them as a team. And then if you are successful in getting an interview, those will happen middle of March, so around the week of April 18th. And then you would find out the next week if you've been accepted into the hub program. So usually April 25th, around that week, if you're successful or not. If you are unsuccessful, you are more than welcome to still connect with us and attend our online workshop series to find kind of maybe if there's something that we say that you need to work on a little bit to improve your application. You can still access our resources for sure. And then you could reapply for another cohort. And the program for summer, it'll start May 11th and it's going to end July 27th. I see there's a question here. Are you able to share PowerPoint slides? I can definitely share them. I'll convert them into a PDF and I can share those slides for sure. JD, maybe I'll let you chime in about your slides.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
I'll send them out. Maybe I'll send them to you, Jesse, and you can do a group email.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Awesome. Any other questions? Let me just see here. Jessica, how many spots are there and how many applicants apply? Really varies. I would say COVID has made kind of, we don't really know, to be honest. Sometimes it can have, maybe we've seen like a really big increase in applications. It definitely varies. Typically, we do have a hub start and a hub build program, which I talked about. And I would say there's anywhere from maybe 7 to 10 companies in each cohort, probably no more than that. Because of COVID and being online and just kind of saving everyone from being on Zoom and that fatigue, we have actually done a combined cohorts. We've done a hub start and a hub build. We have 9 companies. That being said, some of the companies have 3 people on the team, and then they will be there in the session. So we might have like 17 to 20 people in each of our sessions. It is mandatory that you have someone there for that full 2 hours because we really don't want you to miss out on any of the coaching. But I would say kind of a safe bet, anywhere from 7 to 10 companies through the start and the build. Good question. All right, I just have a few more slides here. So the last thing that I want to mention is our makerspace. So this is a great resource if you are maybe not ready to go through the hub program yet, or you're just curious about, you have all these ideas and you want to see if they're tangible and kind of put them into practice. So the makerspace is located on Gordon Street, right beside Second Cup. And there's a lot of great equipment and resources that you can use if you're interested in that design, that prototyping, really essentially any creative outlet. The space was, as I'm sure you can imagine, definitely hit hard due to the pandemic. And so we launched a virtual makerspace. I'll include it in the follow-up email, but this is a great way to explore the space in the meantime. You can watch videos on how to use some of our equipment. We also have a great channel on Discord. It's a community chat and folks will often ask questions, brainstorm with one another. And it's really just a great way to connect with those that are like-minded individuals. So I encourage you to check out the virtual makerspace, and Teo has office hours on Thursday if you're interested in actually seeing the space, and we'll include his contact info in the email. Pictured here is Daniel. He's a graduate student who has used our 3D printer a lot. He's created different products for his design lab and has really enjoyed learning about the equipment. Teo is really an expert in everything 3D printing and has been able to support Daniel with some of these projects. So if you have any ideas or are just curious about 3D printing, you can definitely connect with us. So you are currently in one of our workshops, so they kind of fall under the Makerspace workshop series. I've italicized the ones that are over, but we have a few upcoming ones that Teo's actually leading. So graphic design, quick start, and logo creation, and also website development. And something that I always like to point out when I'm chatting with our students is, as much as we have the Incubator program and entrepreneurship, we also support students who want to be innovators. So maybe you have no interest in running your own business and that's not for you, which is totally fine. That's not kind of something that I'm interested in. But for me, I'm really that innovative, that creative side. I like, taking a problem and how do I, make it more energetic or more dynamic. So when I was in a previous role, I worked in the recruitment office at the university. And when the pandemic hit, we had to completely transition everything that we did virtual. We had no online tour. We didn't have a super strong digital presence website. So how did we take an event where the Ontario Universities Fair, I think we usually would have about 130,000 people would attend and learn more about the university? How do we make that virtual? So part of my role was, coming up and researching new platforms. I did a lot of research to understand what the students wanted, did a lot of different surveys to figure out kind of what the parents wanted, what content were students looking for, what types of presentations, did they want them to be interactive? Did they want those one-on-one meetings? Did they just want to sit on Zoom with their camera off and listen? So really that innovative side and that problem solving, you don't need to necessarily be fully focused in on entrepreneurship. That's great if you are, but just want to make folks aware of that you have an opportunity to really connect with us and use our center if you are really more of that innovative and that digital creative